Okay, we'll do here some examples for just solving linear relations. Now, Mrs. Myden will be an old pro at this, and you shouldn't have any concerns about asking her. She'll know how to solve all of these pretty easily. And just so that there's no excuses from you and saying, well, I didn't know how to do it. Now there's none. So we'll just start with a basic type. And all solving linear relations mean is solving or isolating the variable. So let's put that in quotations underneath here. Isolating the unknown variable. Whether it's a p, a q, an r, an s, an x, a y, whatever it is. That's all we're going to do is we're going to isolate the unknown variable. So in a real simple question like 2y minus 3 equals 5. Well, we can do this question without thinking too much because we've done it all unit long. Only now we get to actually just do this. So in this question here, I want to isolate the y. Well, how do I do that? Well, you guys would tell me, if I was there, you'd say, add the 3 over, because that negative 3 plus 3 on the left-hand side of the equal sign cancels out, gives us a 0. So now I'm left with 2y equals 5 plus 3 is 8. So that's perfect. Now, y still isn't by itself because it has that 2 there. Well, we look at the operation, and it's actually 2 times y. Well, in order to get rid of that 2, I have to divide it out on both sides. And it cancels there. 2 divided by 2 becomes 1. So I'm left with y equals 8 divided by 2 is 4. So that's like your basic solving linear relations question. So if I switch now, and we go and do like a second level of questioning, maybe it's looks like something like this. Let's go with negative 4y, or x, let's go with x here just to show you it doesn't matter, plus 5 equals, I don't know, 7x, what do we got here, minus 6. Something like that. So again, question we have to ask ourselves is, okay, what does x equal to make both these sides equal? Well, I'm going to write some quick steps down. Steps. And you can all write this down as well. Step 1. Get all your variables on one side of the equals. Okay, so that's the first thing we're going to try and do. Step 2 is going to be to start isolating variable. So once everything's on one side, we can start isolating that variable by adding, subtracting, dividing, whatever it takes. Okay, so that's really only 2 steps. So in this question here, the first thing I want to do is I want to get either the negative 4x over to the right side or the 7x over to the left-hand side. Now, I always like getting the variable on the left-hand side. That's just me. So I'm going to subtract the 7x because 7 is already, it's positive. I have to make it equal to 0. So if I subtract 7x's from this side, I'm left with 0. It's gone. So when I rewrite this question out, I'm going to end up having, I'll just move it over here. Sorry about the mess. I'm going to get negative 4x minus another 7x's is negative 11x. So I hope you see where that came from. The plus 5 we haven't touched. And obviously on the right-hand side, we're only left with the negative 6. So this stuff here comes and gives us the negative 11x. Okay, yeah, this is a little bit messy, but we'll get over it. Okay, so we've got all of our variables on one side of the equal sign. Okay, so step 1's done. Well, now I can just start isolating. So in this case, I want to minus a 5 first, away from the left-hand side. So 5 minus 5 cancels, and I'm left with 0 there. So rewrite negative 11x equals negative 6 minus 5 more is negative 11. So now, if I want to get x by itself at this point, I'm going to divide this negative 11 out of the left-hand side. What I do to one side, I have to do to the other. Negative 11 divided by negative 11 is positive 1. Because negative divided by a negative is positive. 11 divided by 11 is 1, so we can just write x. And then on the right-hand side, whoops, I should go over that with, put that in blue. Sorry about that. So we're left with positive x equals, and then on the right-hand side again, negative 11 divided by negative 11 is a positive 1. And there's what x would equal. Okay. Let's go and do one more example. Well, maybe two more. I might have to do it as a separate video though, depending on our time here. So the next one I'm going to do, it'll involve a fraction, but on Thursday we learned how to get rid of fractions when we have an equal sign in a question. So real simple, x divided by 3 plus 5 equals, I don't know, let's go with 2. Something like that. I don't know what's if it's going to matter or not. We may end up with a fraction for an answer, but who cares? Well, when I notice I have a fraction in an equation, okay, right there, I want to get rid of it. And the easiest way to do that is to find a lowest common denominator between all of our terms in this question. So obviously our lowest common denominator here is a 3. So I'm going to multiply everything, this whole question, by a 3. And when I do that, when I multiply this 3 into here, I'm multiplying fractions, so straight across, I end up with 3x divided by 3. Well, we know that 3 divided by 3 is cancelled, so I'm just left with an x. So there's our x. Now, when I multiply this 3 in here, it's 3 times 5 is 15. And again, I have to go all the way into everything, so that equals 6. So 3 times 2 is 6. Well, then our rules, our steps just take over again and just isolate, get all our variables together and isolate. Well, in this case, there is only one variable. So I'm going to minus this 15 from the left-hand side. And of course, move it over to the right-hand side. So x equals 6, subtract 15 is negative 9. There's our answer. All right. So that's where, getting rid of that denominator. So we're going to throw a kind of the highest level question at you here now. So it's going to look something like this. I'm going to try and get this one done so I don't take too much of your time and you can spend some time on this. Let's go with negative 2y over 3 minus 5 equals 4y over 5. Let's go with that one, plus 2. So there's a question. So negative 2y over 3, or negative 2/3 y, whatever you want to think of it as, minus 5 equals 4y over 5, or 4/5 y, plus 2. Again, fractions with an equal sign. I can get rid of those fractions real easily. So I hope you're already guessing what number you have to multiply everything by. And in this case, our lowest common denominator in this whole equation is obviously 15, because 3 times 5 is what it is. So I'm going to multiply everything by 15. Like so. So I'm going to multiply that 15 into everything. But the reason we do that, we know, is to cancel. So real quickly, I'll show you on the first one. That's like saying 15 over 1 times negative 2 over 3. Well, we know we did this to cancel the 3 out, because that's what we want to get rid of. Well, we can look at it like 15 divided by 3, okay? And that's leaves us with a 5. Think of it like that. So 5 times negative 2 is negative 10. And that's what our answer there is going to be. So I always just look at it as 15 divided by 3 is 5. is 5. So now that equals 5 times negative 2, negative 10y. Okay. As I move on, though, I got to go 15 times a negative 5 is negative 75 equals, and again, when I go multiply by the 4/5, that's going to become 15 divided by 5. I hope everybody sees that. 15 divided by this 5 right there equals 3. 3 times 4, the 4 up top, is 12y. And then 15 times 2 is 30. Alrighty, so now again, let's go follow our steps here. I'm going to bring my minus this 12y over by minusing it. That's going to cancel out on the right hand side. I can rewrite, whoops, that's a 12y, not just 12. Don't forget that. So now that gives us negative 10 and negative 12, negative 22y. Minus 75 equals 30. That bell was for me, not you. Now I got to start isolating. So I'm going to add the 75 away. Because, of course, again, negative 75 plus 75, 0. Negative 22y equals 30 plus 75 is 105. And in our magical math world, we're allowed to have nice, ugly fractions when we divide out. So, negative 22 cancel. We're left with y equals negative 105 over 22. And I'm okay with that as long as you reduce as far as you can, and obviously nothing will reduce out of there. So that's as hard as it's going to get. So hopefully you can attempt some of these, and whatever you can't do, Mrs. Myden will be able to help you with.